Hello there, demons. I'm your friendly eldritch monster, Icarus, and I'm here to bring you the second chapter of And How Does That Make You Feel by Rosyredlipstick on AO3. Solace didn't look up as he crossed the threshold and shut the door behind him, his keys dangling from one hand and plastic grocery bags grasped in the other. He didn't react as he crossed the plush carpet to set the bags on the counter. His only out-of-the-ordinary motion was the flicking of a small pocket knife. In a single smooth motion he turned, flipped the lights on, and had his knife at the ready. "Oh," he breathed out, "it's just you." Nico D'Angelo leaned against the counter, his hand buried in a box of teddygrams. "Just me?" he mimicked. "Why do they think I deserve a better response than that?" Will rolled his eyes and dropped his knife but didn't snap it back together. Instead he rested it on the counter, easily within reach. He began to unpack his groceries. "What's for dinner?" Nico asked, pushing himself up on the counter and popping another crack into his mouth. He leaned over and tried to peer into the bags. "I'm starving." "Well, I'm having 4 cheese pasta. I don't know what you're having," Will told him, but his hands were busy measuring out portions for 2. Told a different story. "Sounds delicious, can't wait." "Do you break into my apartment for any particular reason?" Will tried to snap, but with no real force behind it. Nico sighed and took another bite of the stolen crackers. "So I talked to Hazel." "You did?" Will asked, his voice free of any dominant emotions. He seemed absorbed in his current task of washing the tomatoes. Nico took a breath. "Yeah, turns out she's leaving earlier than planned. In about a month, actually. She wants me to go with her." This revelation made Will freeze slightly, but it went unnoticed in Nico's distracted mind. He continued to talk. "I don't really know. Like, as bad as my dad is, he's still my dad, you know? And he loves us, like a lot. When I say that he'll do anything for us, I'm not exaggerating. I can't just abandon him like that. But I can't just live a life of evil either. That's just not who I am." Will swallowed and kept up the illusion of being busy by starting to slice the mushrooms. "Do you see yourself being more as a bad guy or a good guy?" he asked casually, the forced tone perfected over years in the fields. Nico dropped his head. "I don't know how to be a good guy," he snorted. "Hell, breaking into your apartment is one of the easiest things I've ever done. Not because your security system is crap or anything. By the window in the second bedroom is no longer covered by your system, but because I'm so used to it." Will hid his annoyance behind a snort. "That's reassuring," he told him sarcastically. He eyed the sadness that was radiating off the other boy. "Come on, we'll talk about your problems after dinner. Now, if you plan to eat my food, you're going to have to work for it." Will pointed his sharp knife in the direction of the cabinet. "Get the cheese grater and get to work. This 4 cheese pasta isn't going to make itself." "Why, William Solace, do you always wine and dine your favourite patients with such extravagant manners?" Will rolled his eyes. "You're not my patient. You're just someone who has a bad tendency to do illegal things in order to talk to me. And this is hardly extravagant." Nico tipped his wine glass towards him. "Doesn't change the fact that I'm your favourite. But I'm not the one who busted out the big fancy red juice, am I?" Will took a long sip of his own wine. It would seem he would be needing it for the night ahead. "Don't push it, D'Angelo. I might talk away your juice. And are you even old enough to be drinking alcohol?" Nico shielded his glass away from Will. "I'm almost 19, he argued. "It's close enough. And I'm Italian. I've been drinking wine with dinner since I was, basically born." Will swirled his pasta around his fork. "I doubt that. But he made no move to take away Nico's glass. "What would your father say about your underage drinking?" Nico barked out a laugh. "Really? You think my father, ruler of all evil, would be opposed to me sipping on some cherry wine at dinner?" Will shrugged good-heartedly. Some parents have strict house rules. Nico leaned forward to catch the spark in Will's 2 blue eyes. "And yours? What were your parents like?" "I don't share personal information with my clients," Will told him, the line dull as if it was a word he had to use a lot. "It's unprofessional." Nico took a bite out of his pasta and spoke with his mouth full. "So you admit I'm your patient?" Will caught himself, or at least his words caught up with him, his cheeks coloured by his mistake. Nico dismissed the last words to pursue a new route of information. So tell me, Will, and just forget for a moment that I've read and studied the entire file the national government has on you. Is there a Mr. or Mrs. to keep you company? The national government has a file on me? Of course they do, Nico answered dismissively. Back to my question. Anyone keep you warm at night? Will gave him a look. You already know the answer to that. What about you? How's the latest celebrity the National Enquirer has decided to pair you up with? Oh, it was TMZ actually, and he's doing great, just wonderful. Also, I fear I may be cheating on him with a cross-star lovers storyline. Last time I checked, Star Magazine was telling me I was dating Jason Grace, son of politically important good guy Zeus. Will hummed. Sounds confusing. Maybe you should seek therapy to help you sort it all out. Nico hid a smile behind a mouthful of pasta. You know, I've been considering it actually, but I can't find one with convenient hours. I have a similar problem with my clients. They all schedule to meet during my office hours. Will shook his head. It's irritating. Don't they know that all my free time is after work? It seems we'd be perfect for each other. Nico began to rip his garlic bread to dip into the sauce. In theory, it seems. Nico slurped up his pasta. I don't know. It seems to be working so far. Will didn't argue, but he didn't voice agreement either. Instead, he asked, How's your sister doing? Nico's eyes flicked down, and Will made a careful mental note about that. She seems happy with her plans, and she really wants me to go with her. She has this whole elaborate scheme to escape our father, which involves emancipating herself and running off to some camp in San Francisco. Nico sighed and took another bite out of his dinner, thinking over his next words. I want to go with her. Will put down his fork and focused on him. But I can't leave my dad, Nico finished for him. Will licked his lips as he thought. It was very distracting for Nico. Do you think your father would ever retire from evil? Will suggested. Nico shook his head sharply. Bianca tried that approach for years before she ran off. There was once when she came close to convincing him. He booked a press conference and everything to announce it, but it fell through, as always. Have you ever tried to talk to him about it? Nico leaned back into his chair. His dinner was growing colder as he made no more motions to continue eating it. He just ignores me whenever I try and bring it up. Will continued to eat his dinner. I think you should approach him about it before you make your decision on whether you to go with Hazel or not. Nico nodded but kept his gaze glued to the wooden floors of Will's small dining room. He suddenly felt like he was intruding. That makes sense, he finally said, more to break the unbearable silence than to agree. But, Will interrupted, I have one major rule in my counselling. Only follow my advice if you are comfortable with it. Nico glanced up to meet Will's incredibly earnest and open eyes. They were truly an incredible shade of blue. Nico swallowed. Yeah, okay. I'll talk to him. Nico scrambled to his feet and jabbed a thumb over his shoulder. I should get going. His voice was apologetic. My family will be expecting me soon. Will nodded and wiped his mouth with a cloth napkin he had draped over the table. Nico took one last long drink of his wine, emptying the glass. He was pleasantly warm, and the feeling was not unfamiliar. Nico supposed having a father as one of the most powerful men in the world came with certain perks, like hugely expensive rich wines. Will showed Nico the door, and Nico shifted his weight uncomfortably before opening his mouth. Hey! Nico stopped before he could fully cross the doorway. How did you know someone was in your apartment? Will grinned, fooled and a little sharp. Now, Nico, you must know that I can't reveal all my secrets. Anyway, if I tell you, how'll I know next time you're here? Nico bit his lips and tugged at the end of his hair. Next time, echoed through his mind. He waved his hand in goodbye in response, not knowing how to answer. Where to, boss? Jules Albert questioned once Nico was settled comfortably in the back of the limo. The manor, he replied curtly. His mind seemed to be focused on other topics for the moment. Read, other topic as blonde hair, blue eyes, sharp humour, and a curled grin. Thank you for listening to the end of the video. That was chapter 2 of And How Does That Make You Feel by Rosyredlipstick on AO3. Make sure to give the author some kudos and love on their fic. And I hope to see you in the next chapter.